Hi, I'm Julieann Hartman, and welcome to The Journey. I am so glad that you're here with me today because I designed this show just for you, specifically with your heart in mind. Today's show is about a gentleman named Jeremiah Klaas. Jeremiah had several addictions and, on top of all of that, lived a crazy life, which you're about to hear, and was diagnosed with MS, that's multiple sclerosis. This is quite a story, and I know that you will get something so big out of this, and it just won't be about the healing of the MS. It'll be so much more. It's just about how much God loves you and will chase you down until you are ready to finally give in to his love and accept it. In 2008, I also was diagnosed with a condition called fibromyalgia. And as many times as I tried to give up, many times as I tried to be tempted with just being doubtful and questioning him and his power, he still chased me down and showed me that he is my Savior and he's my healer. I'm so excited for you to meet my friend Jeremiah. This is part one because there was so much to say, and Jeremiah's life was so full that you need to hear all of it. So here's part one of Jeremiah Klaas's story. Welcome, Jeremiah. Well, welcome to the show, Jeremiah. I'm so glad that you're here. You have got a very big story to tell, and I can't wait for our viewers to hear it. So welcome to the journey.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Jeremiah, I know that I always do a pre-interview with people so that I get all their information because I don't want to leave anything out. And in our pre-interview, you basically said that you were a kid that had no vision for your life. And so I want to talk about that to begin with, because, you know, it all starts usually in our childhood. I mean, with all the, even myself, you know, it just starts at that childhood level where whether there was abuse or all kinds of crazy things. But for you, you said you were a kid without vision.
Yeah, I went through my childhood, just having fun. And as I got older, I didn't really care what my future was. So, I just lived in the moment, and whatever made me feel good, that's what I did. And, when you're at that age, a lot of things make you feel good. So you just experience everything that you can experience. But the thing is as I kept experiencing things, I developed addictions to drugs and alcohol and other sins that weren't healthy.
Right. And unfortunately, those never go to a good place. It always leads somewhere destructible, destructive. So, okay, so now let's talk a little bit about your childhood. You know, what was going on? Did you go to school? Did you ditch all the time? Like, were you with all the bad kids? Like, tell me about that.
Well, I was the bad kid, so I didn't have to be with them. The other kids that wanted to be bad was with me. So I was, for example, I'll share an example, and I think it was fourth grade. I was in class, and it was nice out, and I was looking out the window, and it was a one-level schoolhouse. So I jumped out the window because I wanted to go outside and play, and that made my teacher cry. I felt bad. That's the only time I ever felt bad, when I did something bad, because that's the only time she cried in that school year. And so that's just a glimpse of what I used to be like. And then another time, I remember, as I got clean and sober, as I got older, I ran into my teacher at the community center back where I was from originally in Ohio. And she didn't recognize me. She was my third grade teacher. And I walked up to her. I says, "Do you remember me?" She of course she didn't. And I told her my name, and instantly came out of her mouth. She said, "Oh my God, you were the worst student I ever had." That was the first reaction that she gave me. And then, of course, I got to tell her, about Jesus and how my life is now. It was awesome. But it was just comical to me to see her reaction. She didn't even think about it. She's like,
Well, she probably thought you're one of those kids that would, live a very short life.
It's funny you say that, because even my my friends, family, all of them pretty much that knew me thought I'd be dead by the time I was 25.
Wow. So
and the funny thing is when I turned 25, I did die because Jesus came into my life. In a sense, I did.
Yeah, that was the best death you could have died. Well,
Amen.
why you're on the show is because you were healed of multiple sclerosis, but honestly, the MS is just a very small part of
Yes.
all of the other healing that took place in your heart and in literally in your soul, like the very depth of Jeremiah Klaas. So, um, okay, so you're going through high school, you're doing all your stuff and everything. How bad did it get, and why did it get worse? Like, why did it get bad?
Well, I mean, I didn't make it through high school because the superintendent asked me to come in to
Okay.
the office. I came into the office and he says, "Do you want to be here?" I said, "No." He said, "Okay, sign these papers and you can leave." And I signed the papers and I never came back.
No.
I was kind of asked to leave basically,
Okay. So
in a nice way.
was that like now you're gonna get your GED, or was it just like you're out of the
Well, I was out of the school. They
Okay.
didn't care what I did. They were just happy I was gone. I mean, there's some stuff that came up to that why they were afraid to have me there. Um, I mean, there's a lot of stuff we could talk about.
Right. So
And
let's go, let's move on from there and talk about then
yeah.
now you're out of high school, and what are you doing? Where are you? And how is this now escalating into such a horrible, destructive life, and then leading into MS?
Well, I started hanging out with some people at the bars in our local town, and a lot of them were bikers, and I got kind of hooked up with that crowd. And that with that crowd, you have any kind of sin ex- at your hands, at your fingertips. Everything you ever think you wanted to do as a kid, you just went and did. You know, and
And there
I was
really were no rules then, right?
no, there was no rules because I didn't have no rap sheet yet. I wasn't scared about cops yet because I haven't really ran into them yet. I was just brand new to the biker scene, bar scene. So I was just like, I really was stimulated to the max because I was easy to stimulate all my entire life, from a child, from even a baby all the way up until now. Now I'm still highly stimulated with everything I do. I don't know what that is, or I don't care what it is. I'm glad Jesus can use it. But yeah, when I was in that life, like I would go and go and go, and I found out that cocaine would make me sober if I was drunk,
Wow.
and that was like, okay, I can keep going. You know what I mean? Because I always wanted to be the highlight of the party and excited and just really it revved up on the inside about everything. And cocaine just intensified that by, oh my gosh, so much.
So when you
And
say you want to be the highlight of the party, did you feel like you always needed attention?
well, I like to cause a scene because I like to draw people. I don't know what I was doing, but I liked it. I'd do something funny and people would laugh and
Wow.
things like that. And I just like to, I don't know, get people excited in
Okay.
any way I could. I don't know why. I just loved it.
Even now you're getting people excited about Jesus at whatever
Yeah.
cost, right? That's
Yes.
awesome.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, so you're in the biker scene, the bar scene, and you're just are you continually getting more involved in drugs, more abuse? Are you working? Like, how do you live?
Well, I was getting more involved in the drugs, so working wasn't really a thing I wanted to do. I mean, I would do it the best I could here and there, but most of the times was spent just doing things to get drugs, whatever that entails, you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get that. So,
absolutely.
because I know that you actually are very handy, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. I can do some stuff. Yeah.
Right. So how does somebody function? That's the part I'm so glad that we're having this conversation because, like, how do you function every day by just all you're thinking about is how am I going to make money to get the drugs?
Well, I mean, sometimes I would work, and the guy I would work for, he'd pay me $100 a day, and what the cocaine was $100 for a baggie of it. So you just work for a day drunk. Just, I'm serious. It was crazy. And probably getting high, which I know many times on the job is getting high at the same time. And we'd have a little bit of money to pay for it. And then if we couldn't, we'd do other things to get it, you know?
So Jeremiah, was there any time during that time where you're like, you know, I feel like I need to change my life? Did you ever feel that way?
No, I always had these sayings that live hard and die young.
Okay.
I don't know why I said that, but that's what I was always saying.
Well, you know what? Maybe you repeated something that you'd heard before or something.
Something, I don't know.
Someone else said.
Right?
So, okay, so now take it now to tell us how bad it was before you have your Salvation Army experience.
There was a encounter I had to where I was trying to get some drugs off of somebody, and I didn't have money to pay for them, but I didn't really care because I was going to get my way no matter what. And so I was in this person's house, and they said, well, you have to have money. I said, I don't have any. I want the drugs. And the guy pulled a gun on me, and I remember looking at him because I really didn't care. I said, well, why don't you do me a favor, pull the trigger. And when I said that to him, he looked at me. He gave me the drugs for free. He says, get out of here. It scared him because I didn't care. And he just wanted to get me gone.
He's probably afraid to kill him.
Well, he didn't know. He didn't know what to do because the gun wasn't working. And I probably called his bluff.
Yeah, you did.
You know, and because I wasn't trying to call his bluff. I just really didn't care. But I think probably I called his bluff, and he just surrendered to it and, you know, gave me some drugs and got me out of the house, you know.
So now how did you get from that point into the Salvation Army?
Well, one night I had a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis before I went to the Salvation Army. And when I got that diagnosis of the multiple sclerosis, I didn't have much to stand on anyways, because I was built on just, you know, being wild and crazy and doing stupid stuff. And when the MS came, I couldn't do anything that I knew how to do. And so my whole world kind of crumbled. My party world, my party life, being the party guy and image and all that stuff just kind of crashed.
Wait, now, Jeremiah, I have a question. So you were going along, doing your thing. What made you go to the doctor? What were you?
Well, I was up in Cleveland, Ohio, helping someone do some stuff on a big grocery store, working on it.
Okay.
And I had been like staying up for 2 or 3 days at a time, and then continuing to try to go to this job high and messed up. I don't even know why I was doing that, but I was pushing myself so hard with no sleep. And I was up there, and I was walking down the job in the job site, and all of a sudden, exactly half my body went completely numb. Like I thought I was having a stroke because I was staying up so late and doing so much drugs and drinking and stuff. I was like, oh man, I might have to go to the doctors. And that's how I found out about it. That was my first experience with I've had other experience right up to that, but I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was because I was drinking so much and partying so much that my body was just, you know, acting messed up.
So that obviously got your attention enough to make you go to the doctor. But like, did you care? Like, did you?
Well, okay. So I was sitting in the doctor's office. He comes out and he says, you know, well, here's your diagnosis. You know, he sat down and got all serious, put his glasses down, and, you know, the things they do. And he looked at me, says, you have multiple sclerosis. And I just looked at him with blank stare because I didn't know what it was. Right. Then he explained it to me and told me the consequences of it and things that happen when you have this. And I was still not, I really didn't know I didn't have any emotions. I didn't know how to react or anything. I'm just sitting there like, oh, okay. He said, that's all you're going to do? I said, yeah. He's like, I've never seen this before.
Oh my.
I said, what do you mean? What do you mean by you never seen this before? He says, well, you're not reacting. What's wrong with you? I'm thinking, what's not wrong with me now? I got like everything. I got every issue you could think of. I subscribed to a whole lifetime of them. at that point, I'm thinking, I didn't know what to say to him. I said, well, I don't know. I just don't have any emotions. He's like, this is very strange. And then, right after that, he issued me some Vicodins and some Ativans and all kinds of this
Oh
drugs. And
God.
I was like, right.
It was like, happy birthday. Here's all. Oh my God.
You wouldn't believe it. I get my prescriptions and I grab a case of beer after I leave the doctor's office, and I'm just ready to get loaded. But then it started hitting me real hard. I tried to do some drugs and do what I usually do, and everything shut down. My mind started like going crazy. It was already crazy anyways, but
Right.
now it was like intensifying, and I was just freaking out. Like I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, just holding my head, like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? There's no way out of this. How am I gonna take care of myself? How am I gonna do anything? And it all just came in on me, and I felt all the pressure of the world just starting to form on me. And then that's what led me up to the Salvation Army. I through all that, I did try to get up out of it out of my own strength. I wasn't born again, but that of course failed. And when that failed, I went straight to all I know, and that's right to the bar. I went and probably my 11 o'clock in the morning, I said, okay, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Because I was trying to work. I was trying to do something right. And, I'd get some money and then I'd get some drugs and just ruin everything that I was doing. And so I finally just had enough of it. And I went to the bar and I just started drinking real heavy. And I got some cocaine. And after the bar closed, I went back with the guy that was attending the bar earlier. And we actually cooked it up and smoked it. All of it that we had, and that intensifies every emotion in you when you do that.
Oh my God.
And I had people just shaking their head at me. They didn't know what to do. The people that actually cared the best they could about me in that world. And so all that night till about probably 2:30 in the morning, I smoked a bunch of crack, and then I couldn't take it anymore, so I had to get out of the house. And the safest place I could think of was over 7 miles away. And I had just a long sleeve shirt on, and it was actually snowing. And I had a whole bottle of they're basically like Valium. They're called Ativan. And I just started walking. And as I started walking, I took like eight of these Ativan all at once, which is super dangerous.
Oh my God.
But I knew what I was doing because I was super alert. I mean, like, wired is what I call it. And so I took the bottle, and I had about 20 of them. I took the bottle, took 8 of them out, and put the bottle back in my pocket. I started walking, and I was getting out of it. And I was like, I'll just die here on the side of the road in the ditch. I'll just lay down and die here. And I went into reach into my pocket to grab the rest of them pills, and they were gone. I know what happened. I know what happened. God took them pills out of my pocket. That's what I believe.
Wow.
Because the drug addict is always super protective of where they put their drugs. And when you're high on crack, you're so alert. You know what you're doing.
Right.
And so I know I put them in my pocket. Now, other people can think different, but I that's what I believe. And I believe God supernaturally took them things out of my pocket so I didn't finish killing myself. And then as I was like not happy that they weren't there. And I looked down on the ground a little bit, but I had been walking, so I knew it was just there was snow coming and everything else. So I knew it was just gone. It was dark. And as I started walking, the other pills I took was taking a huge toll on me, and I was starting to get out of it. And this power came all over me. I didn't know the Holy Spirit at the time. This like strength and power came all over me, and I walked that 7 miles with no problem. Out of it, completely out of my mind.
In the snow.
In this, I kid you not, it was like a blizzard. I kid you not. And I get to the house and I lay down on the floor. I didn't even let anybody know I was there. Luckily, the door was unlocked, and I just laid on the living room floor. And when I woke up the next morning, I was urinating blood because of all the pills I'd taken. And it's like, crap, I'm still alive. So I do the same thing again. I go straight back to the bar. I get a ride back to the bar. I was serious this time, but I wasn't serious enough to shoot myself because I just couldn't do that for whatever reason. And so I get back to the bar. I just start drinking heavy, and then the guy comes in with the drugs, and it's the best drugs I ever had in my life. I kid you not. That night was the best drugs I ever had in my life. Now, it didn't do me any good, but I knew it was good, pure drugs. And so what I did is I stayed at the bar till closing. Then I went to the place at my dad's place. We had a bar called the Do Yourself In.
Okay.
And I kid you not.
You do yourself in. All right.
Yeah, there's a big picture there, but we'll just give you that.
Okay.
So I lock myself in there. Nobody knows I'm there. And I do all the drugs that I have. And then the sunlight comes up and I'm still alive and I'm completely out of my mind at this point. Like, gone. And I got to do something. Something's got to change. So I got a ride from someone out there to the hospital, totally humiliated. Walked in the hospital and they knew I totally wrecked. They stick me in a room and they asked me if you want to go to a psych ward because that's where we think you need to go. And I say, yeah, absolutely. I don't know where else to go. I knew I couldn't leave. I couldn't go anywhere else. There was no hope left, and I couldn't function anymore. And I couldn't work construction like I used to. All these things were running through my mind. I mean, there was more than just the drug problem. There was these things that kept coming in my mind, like how are you going to take care of yourself? How are you going to live? How are you going to support anything for you to do anything? And this stuff kept going through my mind over and over and over again until it drove me to that point. That's what drove me there. And if I'd have had faith, I probably could have, handled it different, but
Right.
I didn't. And so I go to this psych ward for about 2 weeks. I'm laying in this bed, and this guy tells me about the Salvation Army. And I said, well, I'll go there. So they called me a cat.
What happened at the psych ward? What were they doing? Counseling?
They did. We just kind of sitting there, talking, groups, things like that.
Did that help at all?
Huh?
Did it help at all?
Well, I still didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know what to do. Like,
Or did it help with what was going on internally with you?
I could rest. Like, believe it or not, it was actually good because I could rest. I didn't have to worry about anything like bills and food and everything else. I didn't have to worry about nothing at that point. And I had left everything, because I had, vehicles and motorcycle and stuff like that. I left it all. But I didn't care. So they asked me if I want to go to the Salvation Army because I told them about it. And I said, yeah, I do. So they called me a cab and they took me there. And that's when it all started. That's right there's when it started.
So tell us now, because I know this was quite an experience, but so you did not know Jesus as of right now?
No.
Okay.
Not even seeking, not even desiring any of that.
Did the person tell you what the Salvation Army was?
Well, he didn't tell me anything about the God part too much.
Okay.
He just says it's a place that's free. And I didn't have any money, so I'm like, well, it's free. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up there. It was free, so I went.
Okay. So now what happened?
So I get there first month. It's a work program, and they give me something easy to do, which was sorting electronics, testing radios and lights and stuff like that. That came in for donations, so we can test them and wrap the cords up and send them back out for resale in the Salvation Army stores. So that was my little thing I got to do. And the guy that trained me, he was getting ready to leave. He was graduate the program, and he had left a Christian CD on the desk. And of course, I had a radio because we test all kinds of radios. And I was listening to my own music. And I was going through some kind of changes on the inside, but I didn't know what they were. I was just happy to be clean and, calm at this point. And they were talking about Jesus this whole month. And I didn't want to hear it because I was there to get sober and go to motorcycle school in Florida is what I thought, which that would have never worked. I mean, go around the same crowd, you get the same thing, And so I'm sitting at the desk and I'm sorting through things, testing things, and I had my music playing, and this Christian CD was sitting there, and I felt really strongly led to put it in. And this was God doing for me what I wouldn't do for myself. I promise you, I wouldn't have done that. And so I put it in. I hit play. Within like 7 seconds, this peace comes all over me, like the best drug I ever had in my life. And I don't have a clue what this is. And Captain Cole, somebody went and got him, because it's like the whole warehouse. There's like 40 people in there, maybe a little less. They all stopped. They're all watching because they can see something's going on. And I didn't, really understand, because I was like almost out of it, like out of the body, I guess. And I started trying to sing to this music out loud, and I had no shame, wasn't scared, wasn't nervous. All these weird emotions was lifting up off of me just within that few seconds there. And then Captain Cole, he comes out, and I could watch him in the corner because it was a big warehouse, and he's studying me. Like I wasn't thinking anything, but I was watching him. What is this guy doing? So he comes up over to me, and he's like, "You got it." I'm like, "Got what?" "You got Jesus." I went, "Oh, whatever that means, but okay, it feels good." So I get to go to sleep that night for the first time in a long time. I slept the whole night through. I was so awesome. I woke up next morning. I didn't have the weight of the world on my shoulders. I didn't have all the fear and anxiety and everything else about how I ruined and wrecked my life for so long. And then I had that incurable disease and of course, some mental issues, like psychotic issues, whatever you want to call it. And I didn't have none of that. I woke up, I felt so secure. I went and took the shower, and I didn't care about time. Everybody else was in the sanctuary. It was Sunday. It was mandatory chapel service. I get down there in my own time. Everybody's already sitting in there. They just started to playing the music. And I walk towards the front. And at this point, I don't know anything about kneeling at the altar or any of that stuff.
Right.
I wanted to go up front. So I'm walking up front. When I get up front, I kneel down, and what happened the day before intensified like 10 times. And I actually started weeping, and I've never cried that I know of. I don't remember ever crying. And I started weeping for like probably 10 minutes. I can't remember the time, because this power was all over me. And now I'm going to say this, and I don't care if people think I'm crazy, because I probably am. But I'm just going to tell you exactly what happened step by step. And when all that happened, within 10 minutes after I was done, I stood up and I prophesied. And all these words were coming out of me, and I don't have a clue about the Bible or Jesus or God or anything.
Now, were you prophesying about what's going on in the Salvation Army or someone's wife?
No, about what's going on in the nation now. I'm now seeing what prophesied
now in
back then.
2020?
Right? Yeah, right now it's happening what I prophesied back then. I kid you not. I am shocked.
Oh my God.
I am. And I don't know what God's doing with me, but that was my first initial encounter with God, and I didn't have a clue who he was. I had no idea that you're supposed to surrender unto Jesus and follow the word and all this. I had no idea. So here I am. I got all this stuff, and the captain, he told me, "Don't move. I got to call the general of the Salvation Army to tell him what you just said." And so he goes and finds out. And by the way, everybody in the sanctuary had left at this point. They freaked out. And he yelled with a loud voice, "All of you don't belong. Get out now." Like, it was intense. It wasn't just me that was intense. The whole scene was intense. And so he goes, calls the general of the Salvation Army, and comes back. And he says, "You're not ready yet. Not yet." I'm like, ready for what? Yeah. I didn't know I didn't have the clue what was going on. So he leaves the sanctuary. I'm in there by myself. I'm just sitting there like, what is going on? I am gone. I thought I was done. I thought I lost my mind completely after I said all these things. And then right from there, the whole Salvation Army freaked out, the whole thing. And the captain said, "We're going to have to let you go because you freaked everybody out here." So they sent me to a psychiatrist to make sure I wasn't going to kill anybody or kill myself. And I told the guy that was taking me, the counselor, I said, they're gonna look at me and say I'm just fine. And I told him that, and that was the exact words that counselor, the psychiatrist, told me. Now, if he'd have known everything else that just happened, he wouldn't have thought that, right? But it was God, you know? And so the counselor looked at me, he's like, yeah, I guess you are, you know, telling me the truth. You're hearing from God. I said, well, I guess. I don't really know who God is yet, but yeah, okay. So they release me, and then I go back into the old world that I used to be involved in. And when I did that, I didn't know, you know, somebody told me Jesus drank wine. I didn't know the word. So next you know, I'm having a glass of beer. Next thing you know, I'm completely addicted, 10 times worse than I ever have been in my life. Like, you know, they come back 7 times. That's real. That is 100% real. All the devils in hell came back to crush, kill, and destroy me at that moment. Like, it got as dark as it could be. And man, it was hard. I lost my mind. I didn't know what it was to be truly, completely addicted to alcohol and drugs and all that stuff. I did get up in the morning and I couldn't eat until I drank some vodka. I couldn't stop shaking until I drank something. And I'm like, I couldn't even think straight. I couldn't think for myself. I had no self-control. Anything went, didn't matter. So I was at this drug house trying to get some drugs. And thank God that he intervened, because we were going there to do something bad, to collect some money that was owed to us. And the cop answers the door.
Okay, stop there. This is our cliffhanger.
Okay.
This is the cliffhanger.
All right.
But before, because we have to do part 2 because it's just too much. And it's so just vital that people hear this. But what I love is that God spoke through you. You were an addict. You didn't know him. You've done every bad thing you could possibly think of.
But should be in jail forever.
But
I should be in jail forever.
yes,
so.
And think about it. But the love of Jesus, and that's where people are just getting this wrong and thinking that they've got to be perfect and do all these perfect things to have God work through us. And that's not true. So right. End part 1 right now. We will see you back for part 2.
Oh my gosh. Can you believe this story? You know, Jeremiah doesn't usually tell the whole story, and we've got it here. This is an exclusive interview with Jeremiah Klaas. So this was part 1. I can't wait for you to see part 2. And please don't forget, you must subscribe and share this video because it's so important. There are people out there that are in just the same position Jeremiah was in. But if it wasn't for that one person or that one voice, that one lady, that one person that actually gave him some hope, he would not be healed and completely set free today. So please share these videos. And we thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.